Hello everyone out there in YouTube land. My name is Will. This is Will of the Nerds, and we are back on deck stats. And we are obviously going to be putting a new deck on here. So, you can see the previous decks I have done. They are sitting right there for your viewing pleasure. I'm actually going to get the newest deck that we are going to be working on. Is right there. Okay. Cool beans. I grabbed the wrong one. I have a deck box that has multiple decks in it. And I need to get an actual divider instead of just like a little piece of paper. Anyway, we're going to go into a new deck. And this one, I have it down as Mill 0.0, but if you know what Mill is, you might not like this deck, or you might like it, I don't know, but this one's going to be Mill 2.0 because I have a Mill deck. It is my better Mill deck, so that one is the one that is my regular Mill deck. I'll do that in a later video. It's just this deck was a little more easier to get to than my other deck, which was it's put away somewhere, and this is just in a small deck box, like carry case I have, so it was easier just to get to that. And as usual, casual format, and we will get right into it. So, like we always do, we'll start with land base, and I have not played this deck yet, so this deck should go pretty quickly, since everything's already in order. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 forests. Let's double check that. Yep, we have 9 forests, so we can add that to our main deck. And then we have probably the same amount of islands. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so we have 11 islands. Okay, so it's only a dual-colored deck. So, blue and green. We're just going to click that, hit one more, hit enter. And now we have a few dual lands. Since we have 20, it's probably a playset. And that is correct. It is a playset of Simic Guild Gates. Because I love Guild Gates. And, if you don't know, I play a lot of multiplayer, so like it's just easier that way for me instead of spending a crap ton of money on. This one's from Commander, actually. All of them are from Commander. Instead of spending a bunch of money on like shock lands or fetch lands and things like that, you know. Especially if I have it turn 1, nobody's really going to be doing anything, so I can just easily have those instead. Next we have a playset of fogs, because since you're playing Mill, you're not going to have a whole lot of creatures in here. I think there's more creatures in this deck than there is my main Mill deck, but you also need to protect yourself, because even if you do have some creatures in here, they're not going to be very big. So we will go and get the set, which these are all from Eternal Masters. And now we're going to get into all of the blue stuff. That is the only green in here. So you could probably take some of the forests out unless you want to put in like Plummet or something like that. Which if this doesn't end up being 60 cards, that might be what I was waiting for, is to add some Plummets and stuff to it. But we're going to get right into the Mill cards for Dream Twist. If you don't know what Fog is, it just prevents combat damage. Prevent all combat damage. Okay, so the first Mill card we have here is Dream Twist. I think a lot of these cards are a little cheaper. They should be a little cheaper too. They're both from Eternal Masters also. This is an instant. Sorry, I thought it was a sorcery spell, but it's not. It's an instant. Target player puts the top 3 cards of her library into her graveyard. And the reason I like it is because it has a flashback. So 1 drop 3, if you don't have anything else, next turn you can pay its flashback cost and get another 3. So you're milling 6 right off the bat if you can by turn 2. Okay, and then next we have compelling argument. And if you want, you can try to make a compelling argument towards why I should not play this deck, but I won't listen to you. Okay, so we have 2 of these. They are both from Amonkhet, so we will click on that, and then we will take a look at it. It is a sorcery. Target player puts the top 5 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. It has cycling, which I'm not a huge fan of, but if you get screwed, then at least you can cycle it and draw a card. So that really helps a lot, especially maybe later game you need that big mill card to push everything over, then you can just cycle it real quick. Next we have Thought Scour, which is one of my favorite mill cards. I don't know why. It's just the art to me is pretty brutal in itself. I think it does 5. No, it's it's only top 2. And it is the dual deck versus deck. I think it's dual deck. Target player puts the top 2 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard, and you draw a card. It's probably the draw card's why I like it, but I like the art. I like the brutal art on it, and it's definitely a far cry from a lot of the Force of Will stuff I've been doing with the big tittied anime girls, which I like some brutal stuff too, you know. All right, so now we got Psychic Spiral, and obviously, like, I play a lot of 2s in my decks, like a lot of 2-ofs. You can obviously switch stuff out and add more in. You don't have to play just 2-ofs. This is, okay, there's only 1, so we will see what it does. Shuffle all cards from your graveyard into your library. Target player puts that many cards from the top of his or her library into his or her graveyard, which is a nice end game thing for this. It also works if you do the cycling thing too, because then you're not wasting that card. You're eventually going to get it back as long as this doesn't get countered. So it's a nice way to get some cards back and reuse them. Next we have Sweet Oblivion, which I believe is a newer card. It looks like it. I don't know what this does off the top of my head. Theros Beyond Death. So yeah, it's new. What do you do? Target player puts the top 4 cards of his or her library into of their library into their graveyard. Exile 4 other cards from your graveyard. You may cast this card from your graveyard for its escape cost. I mean, if all else fails, you can pay the escape cost, but Sweet Oblivion might be one that you could maybe live without and switch in something else. But I mean, it's 4 cards. You can't beat 4 cards for 2-drop, because a lot of these other ones are just giving you two cards. Although Compelling Argument is 5. You might as well throw two more Compelling Arguments in there in place of Sweet Oblivion, unless you have a deck that's kind of exiling your graveyard, excuse me, to play stuff. Okay, so now we have Countermand. Duh. Okay, and we have, again, just 2 of these. Journey into Nyx. Instant spell. Counter target spell. Its controller puts the top 4 cards of his or her library into their graveyard. It is a nice counter spell. So again, it's what? No, it's a 4-drop. So, I mean, you could take some maybe higher mana cost stuff that's in here and throw a playset of them in there, because you're getting a counter spell and you're getting some mill out of it too, which works. It fits the deck. Now we got 2 Dreadwaters, and I believe these are probably both from Innistrad. Yes, they are. Avacyn Restored, my apologies. They're from the same block, though, I do believe. Target player puts X cards from his or her library into his or her graveyard, where X is the number of lands you control. And I usually try to save this, again, like Psychic Spiral, for kind of later game. That way you're getting a nice chunk of your opponent's library out. And hopefully that will get close to milling them out. And next we have Mind Sculpt, which is another card I really like. We have 2 of these, and they're both from different sets, so let's get that. One's from M15, and the other one is from M13. And let's take a look and see what it does. Target opponent puts the top 7 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. Now, this is probably one that I would switch out with Sweet Oblivion. This is giving you 4. Throw in some Mind Sculpts. It's the same mana cost, and you're doing 7 cards instead of 4. The only thing that sucks is if you're playing somebody that has a lot of like graveyard play, maybe you can find a card that a green card or a blue card that screws them over with that to where they can't play anything from their graveyard. But you know, it's not the worst thing ever. And now we have I think we're getting into a few creatures now. So we have Mind Scour Dragon, and again we have 2 of them. And let's see, is this Cons or Dragons? Fate Reforged. Wasn't even close on that one. I'm getting a little rusty on it. I was doing really good with guessing everything. Okay, so it has flying, obviously, because it is a dragon. Whenever it deals combat damage to an opponent, target player puts the top 4 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. Granted, it's probably not going to do much, but it gives you a flying blocker. It is 6 mana, so it'll be a while before you get it out. But at least it helps. It's a blocker. It does something. Because in my other deck, I have another card that is more controlling, where in this deck, you kind of need the creatures to help you, and like you need to save your fogs when you don't have creatures. Alright, so now we have Towering Wave Mystic. They are both from Theros Beyond Death. Let's click on it and see what it does. Whenever it deals damage, target player puts that many cards from the top of their library into their graveyard. I'm assuming when it does, like if it does 2 damage, then you mill 2 cards. So it says damage, it doesn't say 2 player, so I'm assuming if it does any kind of damage. So, I mean, chump block, it does damage and they're milling 2 cards, right? Because it's not saying when it deals damage to a player. And there you go, like cheap chump blocker, and you're going to get 2 out of it, and it helps a lot. Now this next card is pretty good. It's one of the bigger creatures in this deck. It kind of, you don't really need this card in the deck. I had it because I have 2 of them, and I had it in my other mill deck, and it just kind of didn't fit, so I just kind of threw it in here. Whenever it attacks, target player puts the top half of his or her library rounded up into his or her graveyard. It fit. I had it in my other mill deck for a while, but there was just other stronger mill cards that just ended up replacing it. And I was like, you know what? I have all these mill cards left over, and I'm going to make another mill deck. And this was one of the starting points for it, because I had 2 of them left over. And then I was like, I mean, it has a powerful ability, but it's a 7-drop, and the chances of it sticking on the battlefield for it to attack, you know, it's probably not going to happen very often, especially if somebody's got some blue mana left over. This next card I really enjoy too. It is Jace's Mind Seeker. There we go. We've got 2 of them. Are they both from the same set? They are not from the same set. One is from the dual deck, and the other one is from the actual set. So let's click on it and see what it does. Flying, when it enters the battlefield, target opponent puts the top 5 cards of his or her library into their graveyard, and you may cast an instant or sorcery card from among them without paying its mana cost. Granted, it's probably not going to be anything fantastic. It might be a counter spell, like you might get a counter spell. If you're lucky, you might get a burn spell and maybe blow up a little bit on their board, or like a murder spell, or like some kind of removal spell. That would be nice. That's why it's in there. It makes there's the possibility, and it mills, and you get to use the card against somebody, which I do enjoy. So it's in there for that reason, just for the chance, the off chance that you could get something really good to play against your opponent, like use their own cards against them. And next we just have a small little crab boy, Homered Explorer. It says Homered Scout, but it's a crab boy. That's what I'm calling him. Enters the battlefield, target player puts the top 4 cards of his or her library into their graveyard. I mean, it's in there as a body to block. It is a bit much, but like it was a card I had, and I was like, it mills. I need some creatures because I don't have enough control-y cards to put in this deck, so that's the reason it is in here. And now we go to our next card, which is an enchantment. So we have Evanescent. Is that what it is? Oops. If it was actually came up right there. Evanescent Intellect. 1, 2. They are both from the same set. It is an enchantment, Aura. Enchanted creature has pay a 1, a colorless, a blue, and tap. Target player puts the top 3 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. So, I mean, it's a 1-drop. Chances are, like, you're not gonna put it on any of your creatures anytime soon. But if you can get a creature to stick, then, you know, you can tap it if it's not doing anything. Or, like, if your opponent doesn't have any creatures out, you can attack. Or you can just tap it. Like a couple of the creatures where they come out and their ability triggers when they come out and they've got nothing left to do, you can put that on that card, like that crab. And once he comes out, his usefulness is done. But if it's still out and you've got an extra mana or something, you could slap it on there. Then, you know, you can tap it next turn, and at least it gets some utilization out of it to where it's not completely useless. And then now we have Tome Scour, which is another card I really like. So, like, some of these, in my opinion, are staples for mill decks. Tome Scour, to me, is one of them. What was the other one? Mind Sculpt is one. And I want to say, I forget what the other one is. Psychic Spiral, I believe, are 3 staples you need for a mill deck. That's my opinion. I think Dream Twist is pretty good too. Any mill card that has flashback, again, is going to be a staple to put in a mill deck. And then after that, there's one more card to put in here that is a staple that every mill deck should have, and that's what we're going to do next, and it is Traumatize. So we have 2 of them. They're both from different sets. I didn't show you guys what Tome Scour does, so let's do that real quick. 5 cards from his or her library into his or her graveyard. It's a 1-drop. The only reason I won't replace it with Dream Twist, is because Dream Twist has its the flashback cost. So you're getting 6 for 3 mana, and you know, like if you have this in your starting hand, you could play Dream Twist. So, I mean, you could switch Tome Scour out with Sweet Oblivion, and then you can find something else to switch out to throw in 2 more Dream Twists, because that would be the ideal thing to do, is to play a playset of those cards, and then play a playset of this card, which is my absolute favorite mill card. And my friends do not like it. They despise it. I have a playset of it in my other mill deck. Target player puts the top half of their library rounded down into their graveyard. And, like, if you have a good mill deck, by turn 5, you're going to mill at least 10 to 15 cards, maybe a little more. So you got their starting 7, and like by turn 5, they've had at least 20 cards gone off their deck. So you play Traumatized by turn 5, as long as you're doing good on life and nobody has any counter spells or anything, they only have, what, 20... They only have 40 cards to get rid of, which means their deck automatically goes down to 20. And then if somehow you have another Traumatize in your hand, and that's why I like playing a playset of it's nice, you could play Traumatize again, and a next turn, and their library's down to 10. And then after that, Traumatize just be kind of, it's a little useless in my opinion. So 2 of it's kind of like, you can have 4, it works. It gives you the better chance of drawing it. Having 2 is kind of the sweet spot, because once you get below 10 cards with Traumatize, it's kind of a waste to pay 5 mana to have them mill like 5 cards when you can play like Dream Twist that turn and then pay its flashback cost immediately as soon as it goes in, and they're doing 6, and then you could play like Tome Scour and mill them out for the same amount, you know, instead of just playing Traumatize and they're just getting rid of 3 cards or 4 cards instead of their whole library. But that is the mill deck, so we are going to save it. And we're not going to share anything yet. I haven't been sharing anything just for the fact that since I make the videos in bulk, you guys can click the link and come in and look at everything, which I'm not stopping you guys when I upload the videos from coming in and looking at everything, but at least it gets you guys to watch the video. And then if you're interested, come to my deck stat page and actually look, instead of like, here's the link, you know, ignoring it, clicking on it, you know, because it's, I need a little bit of views. You give me something at least. All right, so we can go over, we have 2 enchantments, 12 instants, 12 sorceries, and 10 creatures. And that says the cost is $13 on TCG Player and $18 on Card Kingdom. We're going to go to the details to look at the most expensive card, which is going to be Traumatized, more than likely. Fleet Swallower really went down in price. I remember it used to be like almost $10 a piece, and Traumatized was pretty expensive last time I looked too, and it went down. Like, they weren't too ridiculously expensive. They were like $12 to $8 last time I looked. I don't know why they have this for the price of lands. That's just ridiculous. I said it in one of my last videos. Never pay for your lands. If you go to a local game store, they will more than likely give you lands. If you ask a friend that plays, they will give you lands because we have a bunch of them. We don't need that many basic lands. You can have them for free. And there you go, $20 for this deck. You could probably get rid of a little bit of green. You might be able to switch some of those cards out for some more green stuff. I don't know if there's any mill in green. You can maybe play some plummets or something like that in place of some cards that you don't really like. That way it gives you a little more protection, but the reason there's creatures in this deck is to give you that protection. My other mill deck only has 2 or 3 creatures in it, and it's all the same creature. So you're relying more on like your fogs and defend the hearths and stuff like that. All right, so we can go to the visual spoilers. There we go. I'll leave it on this page because this is, as you probably know, this is where I take my screenshots for my YouTube thumbnails. So we'll scroll through. That way you can get another look at the art. And then we can go look at the starting hand. That is not good. That is terrible. That is terrible too. I mean, that works, I guess. I would start with that. Then that. Then I guess you can play this. Add another card. Playing that Guildgate. Add another card. Playing this. I'm going to guess you've attacked at least once with that to get 2 cards out. I'd be playing Sweet Oblivion. 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, you have enough mana to play that, but that's what we wanted. We want that 5th mana down. We'll play that. We'll draw a card. And now this is kind of a tough choice. You can either keep Countermand for around this time. That way you can counter somebody's big spell. Or you could play Traumatize. Me, I would just go straight Traumatize And, like, let's say they kept their starting hand 7. So, I mean, we've drawn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 plus 5 is what? I don't know off the top of my head. 3 is 12, I believe. If I'm wrong, you can yell at me in the comments. I don't care. I'm not good at math. And sometimes I can get it real quick. Sometimes I'm just like, I have no fucking idea. But, so they've drawn 12 cards, basically. So 12 minus 60, you're down to 48 cards. You're taking half. Half of 48 is 24. So now they got a 24 card deck. And, I mean, you can play... I would hold Countermand. I would play this on one of your creatures that you have. And hold on and see if anybody plays anything. Now, I would probably... If you have a creature left, I would probably just activate this. That won't give you enough mana for this, I believe. Because you need 4 and... Oh, you still have 4 open. Yeah, that'll work. Now you're milling 2. They're still drawing cards. Again, I would hold, and I would probably play it that turn. And then it would come to your next turn. You do this. Then you get to draw a card. And you have Fleet Swallower on turn 10. That's a bit late, but it does give you a big blocker, so I would play it. You're not going to be able to do anything else, so you're just kind of waiting and hoping that you don't die. Okay, you got a fog. That's good. Hold on to it. Play your forest. I would hold your island. Hold 2 cards. That would be the smart thing to do. At that point, you probably would have played your fog. That would, you know. And right now, you're just kind of flying by the seat of your pants. So, you play Traumatize. You got them down to 24. Let's say, that's what? 24... 21, they're drawing 20, 19, they're getting down 18, 17, 16, 15, they might have 15 cards. If you attacked with this, they might have 7 cards in their deck, 6, 5, 4, and that should mill them out right there if you're still alive. The good thing was you did get some creatures. But if you're playing somebody who has flying creatures, if you didn't mill them, you might be pretty screwed, to be honest. But there's the probabilities, which I don't really go over too much. But that will do it for this video. If you guys could please like, subscribe, and share. You can hit that bell icon. That way you get notified every time I upload a new video. You can follow me over on Facebook and Twitter. The links to those are in the description. I will let you guys know I don't really post on Twitter that much because I have 0 followers. If I see that I'm getting some followers on there, then I will be more active on it. But as of right now, there's no point. I post like 1 video a month on there. I do slack a little bit on Facebook, but I try to post the videos that get the most views. So like my box openings, these videos, my Mythgard videos, and then if I make any new content that gets put on there, like the forest I made, it got put up Saturday. It got shared on Facebook. But with all of that, I'll see you guys on the next one.